All are welcome. We're glad you found us. Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Welcome to World Spirituality, exploring the unity within all cultures and faith traditions, with your host, Reverend Paul John Roach.
So, hello and welcome to World Spirituality on the Unity Online Radio Network. Yes, I am your host, Paul John Roach, coming to you from a beautiful day in Fort Worth, Texas. Today, I welcome author Selene Calloni Williams to the show. She's the author of several books and documentaries as well on psychology, deep ecology, shamanic understanding, yoga philosophy, and other similar subjects. She's a direct student of the psychologist James Hillman, and she studied Buddhist meditation practice, Sufi teachings, and shamanic tantric yoga, amongst others. She's the founder and director of the Imaginal Academy Institute in Switzerland, which is where she's coming from today. And a new book is entitled The Mother Mantra, the Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. So it's a pleasure to welcome Selene to today's show. Glad you're with us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, you talk about the reabsorption of reality. So some of us might not be familiar with what that means. Do you want to tell us a little bit, what does it mean, the reabsorption of reality?
Oh, yes, reabsorption of reality or a withdrawal of projection. With this sentence, we mean soul-making and deep ecology. This in its turn means taking on those objects, people and feelings that we have met in the course of our life back to their original state of image, dream, projection. We live in a universe that is not substantial, is not made of its own substance, but is symbolic. And this perfectly matches the Buddhist concept of samsara wheel, otherwise known as the wheel of illusions. It is therefore Chittamaya, or deceit of our conscience. The same concept exists in Hinduism too. In the Purana, which are Hindu texts, we read the existence is a Shiva's dance, who dancing awakens matter and makes of it pulsating waves. And this is poetry, but it's also science. It reminds us, in fact, of quantum physics, where matter is seen as waves pulsating in the void. Matter is impermanent. In the tradition of the Mother Mantra and Shamanic Yoga, we say it's like lightning. It appears and disappears. It does not last. It is unsubstantial. Our minds must be deceiving us when we see reality as permanent and substantial. And this deceit is in truth a cage wherein we suffocate and suffer. Since if events are considered as objective, they cannot be modeled by our ability to imagine. This is how a person ends up being a victim of events rather than their creator or lover. So, reabsorption of reality or withdrawal of projection is means being aware that everything we encounter in our life is just as it was true, it were true, but it is a dream, a projection, and we are the dreamers of our dreams. You see.
And so what we're hearing here is, and I think if I can paraphrase it a little bit, the world is not what it seems to be, right? It is not this substantial materialistic universe that's the reality. You know, some people walk around in three-dimensional reality and say, this is it, there is nothing else, right? And what you're saying is this is just one aspect of something larger, if you like, and we're foolish to give it any greater validity that it needs to be. Then that doesn't mean that it doesn't have its purpose, right? Because part of the mystic marriage is marrying the sand and the stars, if you like, the seeming earthy and the heavenly, and understanding that they're polar. They're two parts of the same thing, if you like. So it is a gift, isn't it, to be alive? But when we start understanding it as permanent, or we understand our own human selves as real, I have an ego and that's real, then we have a problem, because we are actually not real in that sense, right? We are one with the one, if you like. We are beyond those identifications.
Yes, we are not real as I or ego, distinct and separated from the entire cosmos. We are real in a non-dual state, which means we are distinct but not separated from the entire cosmos. And we are also alive and dead at the same time, because we are visible and invisible at the same time. But because we have a fear, we can't see the invisible side of ourselves. And we think to be real in a materialistic sense, in an objective sense, but objectivity is a deceit of our consciousness. In reality, we are just a dream, and something like an inner narrative. And when we narrate our inner story, which becomes events and life, we can narrate it in the company with our mind, which is a conditioning code, which is a programming code. And so we end to perceive reality as objective and material, and we end to be victims of the events. Or we can narrate our inner stories in the company of divinity, of our soul, if you prefer. Or, as the ancients said, in the company of our daimon. The daimon is our guardian angel, our guide spirit, is actually the representative of the divine. And so if we can narrate our inner story, which becomes events and life, in the company of our daimon, our guide spirit, we can go beyond the materialistic limits, beyond the sense of objectivity, and reach the non-dual state. In the non-dual state, we are like Shiva, for instance, dead and alive at the same time. You see, Shiva is depicted with the body full covered by ash, because he emits ash from all the pores of his skin, because he is dead and alive at the same time. And this condition is a reachable condition for each one of us. And it is a wonderful condition, because it's a fearless condition. Being fear, our greatest limitation, being fearless is a great, huge gift, but we can give to ourselves.
Right, yeah, very nicely put. And I love the idea. And it sounds weird to say, you know, we're both alive and dead at the same time. But if you look at Shiva, you know, Shiva is endless potentiality, right? And it doesn't have to exist. To exist is the energy that is yet to manifest, if you like. But then when it decides to manifest, you know, it puts on its Shakti, and so you have the Shiva Shakti idea, the cosmic marriage of those forces. But all the time that Shiva is exhibiting his Shakti, if you like, he remains in potential. He remains without form, without any conditions. So in the same way, you know, even though we're living our lives, we're not limited by them, right? We're free of them. So often we don't think we're free. We think we're conditioned by circumstance, but that's only true if we decide it to be.
Yes, it's our decision. And you see, mystic marriage is depicted and known in every spiritual traditions of the world. As you said, Shiva and Parvati, who is the divine Shakti. Or think, for instance, at the Song of Songs, Solomon and his bride. Think of esoteric Christianity, Gnosticism, and at the union between Christ and Sophia. And think of the esoteric Buddhism. In esoteric Buddhism, the main point of reference is not Gautama Siddhartha, the historic Buddha, but the so-called Vajradhara or Vajrapani, the Buddha depicted in the erotic union with this companion. So the image of mystical marriage is in every spiritual tradition, in every esoteric spiritual traditions of the world. And it means that if we can be dead and alive, visible and invisible at the same time, we have no limits. Of course, we have always to enter the sacredness. And sacredness is the dimension in which we give ourselves for love in order to create above ourselves. And this is the only real limit that we have, if we can call it as limit, but it's not. It's just our possibility to give ourselves in order to create above ourselves.
I was reading some teachings by the non-dual teacher Adyashanti, who I like quite a bit, and he said, you know, somebody asked him what the enlightened state is like, and he said, well, basically, the best word I can use is contentment, because you're fine with the way everything is. You don't have to have it a certain way. You don't even have to exist. You don't have to be you anymore. It's a tremendous freedom, and you can relax into it and enjoy what is. And I think that's a good description, actually, from my own personal experience of what that state might be like. You know, is the sense that everything falls away, right? All the effort that we thought it took to become free is not necessary, because in truth, we're already free, right? We're already in this beautiful place, because that's who we are. And so it's not an effort to become one with the one or in this mystical marriage. You know, it's happening in our bodies all the time. I think quantum physics, and you mentioned that in your book, quantum physics teaches us this a little bit. It's very spiritual in that sense that, you know, basically it's neither a wave or a particle, right? It can be either. It's only when we observe it that it becomes a particle. But when it's not pinned down, it can be whatever it wants to be. It's a full flow of the universe. And I think it's the same with us. It's only when we pin ourselves down and have to be a certain way that we lose the beautiful contentment and joy of the flow of life. And your book, you know, speaks to that. I want to quote from part of it the early part of it on page 8 or 9, if you don't mind, because there's some beautiful words there that I wanted to read to our listeners. And you talk about beauty. You said beauty is the soul of nature. Everything in nature moves toward beauty. What could be more beautiful than giving oneself, which is, of course, what nature does. It's very profligate. It gives completely. In nature, everything gives itself. According to Heraclitus, a person cannot bathe in the same river twice because the second time the river has already given itself and no longer exists. Another river has taken its place. In nature, everything gives itself. Everything is evanescent, a shadow, a mirage that appears and immediately disappears. Impermanence is the main trait of nature. Why should nature give itself? It's not for love. Beauty is the natural state, which is impermanence, loving, giving. Nature has its laws which do not discriminate between the opposites. They are the laws of harmony, of rhythm. I just think that's very beautifully put, and it goes beyond all the worries we have about, am I getting it right or wrong? You know, it's about just giving, generosity, the ultimate generosity. And I think God, or whatever you want to call that essence, is immensely giving, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Nature teaches us inclusiveness, which brings us beyond morals and ethics. How many wars have we done on ethics and morals, on the sense of right and wrong, good and bad, true and false? Inclusiveness is something more. It allows us to take a step forward, and nature teaches us inclusiveness. Inclusiveness means feel everybody and everything under our skin, within our heart, and become what we know. You see, there are two forms of knowledge. One is mind knowledge. Mind knowledge happens through dissecting and analyzing reality. Another form of knowledge happens through the heart, through love, and is inclusiveness, means becoming what you know, melting. And this is the true knowledge.
And the irony is that we love exclusive things, don't we? You know, the more exclusive, the better. You know, the fancy hotel, the fact I'm special and not many people are like me, or et cetera, et cetera. This inclusive is not valued by the world, but of course it's the nature of reality. It's the universe doesn't reject anybody. Everybody's worthy. Like Jesus said, you know, God sends rain and sun upon good and bad alike, you know, because God is no respecter of persons. It's the exact same thing you're talking about. All are welcome to the banquet, right?
Yes, of course. To say it with Gnostic, we have to reunite Christ and Sophia. The word Sophia in Greek means wisdom. Christ is the symbol of love. We have to reunite love and wisdom, and knowing through a supramental vision, because knowing through love and wisdom together is reaching a supramental vision. And only through this supramental vision, we can do a real ecology and try to save the life on this planet.
Yes, absolutely, because it's in a rather precarious state right now, isn't it? Because we've bought into the idea of raping and of seeing the whole of the universe of our world, if you like, as a resource to be developed, as opposed to a sacred thing to be enjoyed, and respected. And if we're not careful, we're going to push ourselves out of the. I think the planet was going to survive. Mother Nature will go on, but we may not go on with it. That's the thing, because there's been other great entities that have come to this planet and lived for a long time and gone, and I'm sure the same thing can happen for man if we can't refine and retrace the steps back to what's truly important in life. So yeah, this is huge right now, isn't it? It's very important for us to get this right.
Yes, I think we have to move from a linear economy that produces goods that cannot be recycled to a circular economy that produces only recyclable things. And in order to do that, we should transform and change the symbols that are underneath our behaviors. And in order to change the symbols, we should reach a new thinking method. We have to change our thinking method. We should think not only through our mind, but we should think also through our art. We also have a thought of the heart, and we should use it if we want really this change, the change from an oil economy, from a linear economy to a circular economy, and do a real ecology. Otherwise, we only are able to undertake an anthropological ecology, which is an ecology centered on the human being. And
right.
It can be a true ecology, can't really help nature and ourselves, our bodies.
Well, it's very true when you look around at nature in its natural state. There is no waste whatsoever. Everything is recycled. Everything is in beautiful harmony, and there's nothing wasted, right? And when man comes along, we have huge landfills and the ocean filling up with plastic, etc., etc. And as there's more of us on the planet, of course, and the needs are greater, then there's more of this, and we're going to choke ourselves to death here. So we need to understand the processes of nature, because those have sustained the planet for several billion years now, and a lot longer than we've been around. So there may be some wisdom for us to understand, and that wisdom is hidden, right? It's the dark underworld, if you like, the wisdom of the earth, which we must marry again. There's a lot of those images. The great image of that integration, right, of the light and the dark, of the earth and the sky and whatnot, which is true for us. Deep within us is deep wisdom and understanding, but we don't always go there. We spend too much time, as you said, in our heads. Folks, I'm with Selene Calloni Williams. She's written a book called The Mother Mantra: Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. And when we come back, we'll look at exactly what the Mother Mantra is. There's 4 parts to it, 4 movements of the Mother Mantra, if you like, and we'll see what that is. But just before we go to the break, there's a great image in everything. What is that image?
The great image that is in every image is love, is the union between human and divine, between visible and invisible. Because everything that has been conceived in this union. And so the image of this conception of the love between human and divine, between visible and invisible, is in every images that we can encounter in our life. In every images, we can perceive the presence of love, because love is the ultimate reality, is everything that actually exists. And love expresses itself as beauty. And this is why safe nature, stay in the nature, is so important, because nature is the expression of beauty, which is the expression of love. Without nature, we can't survive, because we can't survive without love.
And I must admit, when I go out in nature, even if it's just for a walk in the city, you feel renewed, revitalized. And my wife would love to stay outside all the time because she just loves it. But I think that's another illness of our society, is we spend too much time indoors on our screens. So that's one piece of advice for today, is get out there and enjoy Mother Nature, which is all around us.
We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Welcome to Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
It takes you to power Unity Online Radio. If you'd like to make a positive difference in the world, you can by contributing to this global ministry. Unity Online Radio relies on listeners like you to support our broadcasts that send our messages out to an awakening world. Go to unityonlineradio.org and click on Donate today.
Here's Reverend Paul Hasselbeck with a Unity Teachable Moment taken from a talk at Unity on the River in Amesbury, Massachusetts.
All good is defined as divine mind, God, and I love this, the principle of divine benevolence that permeates the universe. So God is not good like a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout. God is the good, the principle of benevolence. And benevolence is basically the disposition to do good or to treat others well and things like that. And so in that moment, when you're not wanting to offer grace to somebody, you can remember at the very point of view is this principle of benevolence. And as we remember that, we can draw on it, and then we use that principle to offer grace.
To find more from Reverend Paul Hasselbeck, visit the radio archives at unityonlineradio.org.
Discover the path to wealth with May McCarthy, May 17th to 19th at the Art of Living Retreat Center in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. May will share her 7-step daily practice to achieve goals in every area of your life, including your finances, career, and relationships. A best-selling author, angel investor, and entrepreneur, May has been building highly successful businesses for over 35 years. You can achieve your dreams. Go to artoflivingretreatcenter.org to find out more.
What if you could start each day with a positive outlook, remembering you are a divine expression of God? Daily Word is a booklet of daily devotionals offering positivity that's downright contagious. With a print subscription or by email, you can pause to reflect on how to practice spirituality in your human experience. Reading Daily Word takes about a minute a day, so you can feel uplifted every morning. Visit dailyword.com to subscribe.
More and more people are interested in a vegan lifestyle, and the numbers continue to grow. Join Victoria Moran every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central for Main Street Vegan and learn how to make the shift to help animals and the planet. Each week, Victoria shares recipes, health tips, and interviews with celebrity vegans, experts, and activists. Learn how to make a difference for animals and the planet at every meal. right here on Unity Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Call now with your question or comment. 816-251-3555. That's 816-251-3555.
We now return to World Spirituality with Reverend Paul John Roach.
All right, welcome back to part 2 of today's show. I'm with Selene Calloni Williams. She's talking to us about her book, The Mother Mantra, the Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. And we talked about the beauty of nature, the fact that everything is in the divine order of givingness all the time. In Unity, we sometimes use the word for the divine good, but we don't talk about it in opposition to bad. You know, it's not a duality. It's the ultimate good, the goodness of God's givingness, if you like. It's God's generosity. So I think that fits in with what we're talking about today. In its essence is love and beauty, a bit like Keats said, right? All you need to know about the universe are those qualities. But it's very practical. It's not airy-fairy, because this is the very way our human selves and the self of the universe unfolds in this great image of the dance, if you like. And I'm very fond of the image of Shiva Nataraj, the dancing Shiva, you know, dancing the universe in and out of being, both alive and dead at the same time, as Selene mentioned earlier, arising out of the nothingness, the emptiness. In fact, based in the emptiness, the non-conditional, which is a wonderful, beautiful understanding. And a lot of us fear that. Oh, I fear death. I fear emptiness. But really, that's who we are at core. We are that unconditioned emptiness and spaciousness. I don't think it needs to be feared. It's just it confounds the ego, doesn't it?
Oh yes, yes.
So tell us about the 4 movements of the Mother Mantra as you understand them to be.
Yes, the 4 movements of a Mother Mantra. The first movement is understanding the dream state. And this means becoming aware that everything we can experience in life is just, it were true, it were real, but in truth is a dream, a projection. We live in a symbolic world, which is an imaginal world, not an imaginary world, but an imaginal world. Imagination is a personal action. It comes from the I. Imaginal is a magic land. It is a no man land between conscious and unconscious, between visible and invisible. It is where human and the divine meet each other, and it is where all the images that become events in our life take place. This is why I say we live in an imaginal world. We live in a symbolic world. And objectivity and materialism are the deceptions of our mind. This is the first movement, becoming aware of the unsubstantial and impermanent and evanescent reality. The second movement is taking the spirit with oneself, the so-called hunt for the soul. You see, everything has a visible and an invisible side. And in the shamanic yoga and in the tradition of Mother Mantra, we become able to take with us the soul, the spirits of beauty. And when we go into the nature, when we walk in a woods, for instance, and we see beautiful spots, we ask to the spirit of beauty to come with us, simply saying, "Come with me," and we perceive a great energy entering us. And we can do this also with our ancestors, because ancestors are images as well. And so we can ask to our powerful ancestors to stay with us in order to have more energies and to be inspired. And also our dreams, when we sleep and we have important dreams, when we wake up, we should ask to the spirits that visited us, "Stay with me, come with me." This is what we call soul hunting. And it is a very important practice in the shamanic tradition. Also when we face very empathetic, emotional events in our life, we should recognize that within these events there is a spirit, a soul. And so instead of judging the events, instead of filtering events through the lenses of our mind, we should simply ask to the spirit, "Stay with me, come with me." We have to use the power of inclusiveness. In such a way, we can pacify the events. We can pacify our dreams. We can pacify our ancestors. And we can awaken the power which is in nature, which is in beauty. And this is the soul hunting, the second movement. The third movement is reuniting the divine lovers in awareness of the two in one. And this means reaching the eudaimonia. The word eudaimonia comes from Greek and means be accompanied by a good daimon, a good guide spirit or guardian angel, which is the representative of the divine. Life is the expression of an inner narrative. This narrative, this story, is never the creation of the individual. There are always two writers behind it. Every word requires the concomitance of two entities. Thus, one can write their inner narrative together with their mind, which represents society's code, or one can write it with the divine. In the first case, they will write a story limited by many barriers and obstacles. In the second case, they will write a story of freedom based on nature's code, on beauty, poetry, love, unlimited possibility. And fourth movement is the repetition of a mystical mother mantra. Every time you remember, you should repeat the mantra. While walking, driving, eating, talking, you can repeat it mentally. Repeating the mantra allows you to stay in tune with the union, with the mystical marriage, and so you can always remember that you are loved. You can be free from fear and limitations and feel the help of your guide spirit in reaching your objectives. These are the four movements.
You know, I've got to share something that happened to me a couple of years ago in British Columbia, we were on the ocean there, and there was these beautiful woods behind us, and we're lying on the beach, and of course the sound of the waves on the stones is crashing in continually, and had this and you're looking out across to the other side, to America on the other side, and had this image of it wasn't an image so much as a reality, this idea that everything was Shiva, that the sound of the ocean was the mystic mantra, being sounded out continually, and that everything, every part of me, every part of nature was part of this soul essence, which showed up as Shiva, because I feel quite connected to the Shiva Shakti ideas. But it was palpable. It wasn't just a nice idea, It was, oh my goodness, this is the reality of things, And it maybe the imagery that I chose was my own, because that's my way in. But what Shiva represented as the essence is the force of this marriage, this connectivity to the one, is in everything, and we can approach it in our own unique way. But it's there. But what was fascinating for me was, it went from the idea, which you mentioned is in the head, the thinking about things. That's nice, but it's intellectual. Went from there into the heart, where you knew these things to be living realities, and it was very comforting, very powerful. Time on the beach, and the ocean is continually making its noise, but it wasn't noise anymore. It was the beauty and expression of the mantra, if you like, the sound of the universe and of the cosmic Om, if you like. And I don't want to get too woo-woo here, but it was powerful, and I give thanks for that imagery. And when you explain the four movements, for me it was, very similar to that, because you realize that everything is a dream, in the sense that, it comes and it goes. You're at I'm in British Columbia for a while, but then I'm gone. Was it real? I don't know. But what was real was the connection to spirit there, and the fact that I was connected, in that marriage, if you like, and able to perceive it in a very beautiful and meaningful way. And then I can recall it later, right? I can remember that connectedness, even at times when I feel back in a state of separation.
Oh, yes, you said so beautiful things. I love it. And what you described is the state of ecstasy. Ecstasy is a state of self-transcendence, is a state of non-duality, is a state of serenity, peace, calm, and beatitude, joy, fulfillment. And ecstasy is the state in which all the practices and spiritual exercises known in the Mother Mantra tradition happen. You see, every practice we do in shamanic yoga is in a state of ecstasy. Because even when we practice asanas, yoga posture, we practice them in the so-called fluid or flowing sequences, which are like a dance with breath control. And we enter ecstasy through devotion, love, surrender, visualization, and active imagination. In every shamanic yoga practice, there is also a contemporaneity of mother experience and son experience, we say. Son experience is the energetic and bodily experience. Mother experience is a visionary experience. And through the contemporaneity of these two tools, we enter ecstasy. We can say that we practice a shamanic yoga when we enter a state of ecstasy. This is the main distinction between shamanic yoga and every other form of yoga, ecstasy.
And I love the idea that everything is grist for the mill, right? In the sense that there's nothing that we need to reject. And these shamanic practices, you think of some of the, you talk about a sect in Buddhism that sort of wants to pull down tradition because it gets in the way. Religion can get in the way sometimes. And there's sects in India too, the Nagababa Shivites or whatnot, who do strange things that would be considered abominations by the Brahmin priestly class, but they do it in order to break down the barriers. And what I love about the teachings that you're talking about is everything is useful. And you've got on page 102, under the chapter Right, Myth, and Compassion, you've got the 7 messengers. And I thought this was very interesting. The soul has 7 great messengers. And these are the messengers, folks. They're not something abstruse. They're not, the angel Gabriel and all this stuff. They are things that are in our life right now: pain, illness, old age, death, sleep, sexual passion, and research, all of which are objects of study in all the sacred traditions. This is where the metal hits the road, or whatever the phrase is. This is where it gets real, right? Because it's powerful. We can find breakthroughs in pain and illness, in death, as well as in all the lovely, high, wonderful experiences we might have sometimes. So I love this. It's all useful, right? Everything comes for a lesson and a purpose in our lives.
Oh, yes. Through every true spiritual path, we become aware that our suffering, pain, discomfort, troubles are actually our greatest wealth, because they are calls for reawakening. And if we are able to say yes, entering the sacredness, and give ourselves, and say not what I want, but what you want, we reach an enormous state of illumination. You see, Prometheus was the great hero of Greek mythology. Prometheus did what everyone else couldn't do. He cut Medusa's head. Perseus cut Medusa's head because before accomplish his task, he went into the underworld, where he took all the tools that he needed to cut Medusa's head. When we enter a illness or a discomfort, a trouble, we do Perseus' journey. We do the journey into the underworld, which is actually the shamanic journey. The underworld, the realm of Hades, is the place where we can find the most important tools to accomplish, to reach our goals and accomplish the mission of our soul. And so we have not to be afraid. Of course, we have to take care of ourselves and we have to cure ourselves. But at the same time, we have to perceive the call and say yes to the call.
It's a fascinating story, isn't it? The story of Prometheus. We can't really get into it here. We don't have enough time. But, he suffered greatly, and yet his resilience, his power to withstand enormous reverses, At one point he was chained to a rock, right? And the eagle would peck at his liver every day, and it would renew in the night, and then it would get pecked again. In other words, life is problematic. There's always going to be suffering, right? We can't avoid these things, and yet his resilience was such that he even stood up to the gods, right? And stole fire. I can't remember all the myth, but there's a lot of details to it. But he represents, in a sense, this noble soul, right? That we are called to be, I think.
Oh yes. I think that myth can explain a lot about us, because we are myth, you see. We are narrative, so we are myth. And knowing myth, we know the true origin of our behaviors and all the events. You see, Prometheus and Perseus are heroes that teaches us how to face troubles without fear, and understanding that our problems can be gifts in such a way, can be a call to reestablish the harmony, the original harmony. You see, can I tell you another myth? The myth of Minos. Minos was the king of Crete, and he wanted the power. So he asked he asked the god, to Poseidon, the power. And Poseidon said, okay, I give you the power just to try it, but you should promise me that you will give it back to me through a sacrifice. Minos said yes. And when Poseidon sent him the symbol of the power, which was a bull, a beautiful bull, he refused to give it back to Poseidon, and he wanted to make it a cow, and he wanted to tame the wild, and he betrayed the pact with Poseidon. So from now on, Poseidon and all the gods and goddesses are calling us, asking us to give back the bull, to give back something that we have stolen, in order to reestablish the universal equilibrium. Illnesses are this calling. Disease, suffering, problems are this call. So we have, yes, of course, we have to take care of ourselves, we have to go into therapies, we have to try to find solutions, but at the same time, we have to say yes to the call and give back what we have stolen. And this is done by entering the sacredness. and saying, yes, what you want, not what I want, but what you want. This is called surrender in the tradition of shamanic yoga.
Right. Very good. And also, it's the idea that it doesn't belong to us anyway, right? It's on loan to us, and so we act like we own it when we don't. And this is probably one of the greatest causes of the things that go wrong for us, because we falsely claim that we have now control over them, over these powers, and we don't. They're very much on loan from the universe, and until we shift an understanding to that, there's going to be hubris here. We're going to suffer the consequences of our own greed, of our own self-centeredness, if you like. Big subjects. We're at the end of the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a fascinating book, folks. The Mother Mantra. You can get it in all the usual outlets. And if people want to get in touch with you, Selene, do you have a website?
Yes, I have a website, selenecalloniwilliams.com.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
And let me tell you about next week, and then we'll say goodbye to Selene. Next week, psychic medium Bill Phillips joins me, and he's going to talk about his book, Signs from the Other Side, Opening to the Spirit World. But right now, I want to thank Selene so much for a wonderful show. Thanks for coming all the way from Switzerland to be with us on the airwaves here. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you to you. Thank you to everyone.
And thanks for listening, folks. Have a good week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.